Alright, we are here now to do some problems from Power Standards Quiz 21 and 22. Up first on the screen I have a question from Power Standards Quiz 21 where we are given a line on a graph and we have to write an equation for the line on the graph. So we have our line right here. There's a couple things that I know about this line just looking at that without looking at the given equations here. And I know that the slope of this line is positive because it's going up from left to right. I know the y-intercept, I can see where that crosses the y-axis, and then I can maybe identify a few points that are on here too. Might be a little hard because we don't have the grid there, but I can probably eyeball a couple of them, which should give us enough information based on the equations that are given to write an equation or find an equation for this graph. So the first thing that I notice about this thing is that the y-intercept of this line is 4. And if I look down at our selections here, I have 1, 2, 3 equations that are written in slope-intercept form. C, D, and B are all written in slope-intercept form. And in this case, the y-intercept of this equation is 4, which matches the graph. The y-intercept of this equation, B, is also 4, which matches the graph. The y-intercept of this equation is 2. So this equation here cannot match this graph because the y-intercept here is 2, whereas in the graph it's 4. So D cannot be an answer. So I'm going to eliminate D just because of what I know of slope-intercept form and what that means for a line on a graph. C and B both have y-intercepts of 4, so both of those could possibly be the answer. We're not sure exactly which one yet. We'll have to analyze the slope to answer that question. But we also have this A. A is also here. This is not in slope-intercept form. This is actually in standard form. We don't have y by itself. It's not y equals mx plus b. We have x and y on the same side of the equation. And if I look at this y-intercept, I know the y-intercept is 4, so that means at this point right here where the arrow is, I know that the x value is 0 and the y value is 4. So if this A right here is an equation for the line, that means that if I plug in 0 for x and 4 for y, this sentence will make true. This equation will be true. This sentence will make sense. So if I do 4 times 0 is 0, plus 2 times 4, which is 8. 0 plus 8 does not equal 0. So A cannot be an answer either, because when I plug in a point that I know is on the line, it doesn't make sense in the equation. So A is not correct either. So we're down to B and C, which are both written in slope-intercept form, and now we can analyze the slope. The slope of this equation here is 1/2. The slope of this equation is 2, or 2 over 1. So what I'm going to do is start at a point. I'll start at the y-intercept. And if I want to get to another point, let's say I'm going to do up 2 over 1. If I go up 2, working with this slope here, if I go up 1, 2, and over 1 unit, which is about right here, I do not end up on the line. So when I use the slope of 2 over 1, of going up 2, right 1, I do not end up on the line. So this equation cannot be the answer either. So let's just analyze this one real quick. And this one, the slope is 1/2. So if I start here and if I go up 1 unit and right 1, 2, I end up on the line. This line has a slope of 1/2. So therefore, this equation C is the equation for this line because it has a slope of 1/2 and a y-intercept of 4. Another example here real quick is write an equation in standard form. We have the equation y plus 6 equals -3 times x minus 1, and standard form is ax plus by equals c. And what I'm going to do is take our equation that we're given here and I'm going to write it in standard form. This is not in standard form, this is actually in point slope form. So I'm going to do a little bit of algebra to kind of move some things around and make this equation look like this. And the first thing I did was distribute this -3. -3 times x is -3x. -3 times -1 is +3. So I've distributed this -3 to simplify this a little bit. Not in standard form. We don't have our x and y on the same side of the equal sign. So what I'm going to do first is subtract this 6 from the left-hand side and subtract it from the right-hand side, and that 3 minus 6 is -3, which we get right here. not in standard form, it's in slope-intercept form. I have one more thing to do, and that's add this 3x. And if I add 3x to both sides of the equation, I get positive 3x plus y, because this y is positive, equals negative 3. And this equation here is now in standard form. We have x and y on the same side of the equal sign with a constant number c on the right-hand side. So this will be our answer for this question, writing this equation in standard form.